We are going to call the Novi Board of Education regular meeting to order. Tonight is September 22nd, and if we can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I can get a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved. Support.
Recommended by Mr. Mena and supported by Mr. Cook. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Tonight we're going to start with awards, recognitions, and presentations. We have the American Heart Association Top School Award. Mr. Menka.
So last year, a little actually under a year ago, on October 18th, the Deerfield Elementary students participated in an all-day Kids Heart Challenge. It was a fun challenge. All the students participated, and the challenges was coordinated by Mr. Taylor, who is our physical education teacher at Deerfield Elementary. The Novi Community School was contacted by Nicole Colia of the American Heart Association, who announced that Deerfield had raised an unbelievable amount of the donation for the American Heart Association through this event and earned a top school award. So representatives tonight from the American Heart Association are here to present Mr. Ryan Francis, the principal of Deerfield, and Mr. Taylor with a very prestigious award. So I would welcome anyone who's here to do the presentation to step forward.
Thanks so much. Should I step forward here?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, I prepared a little speech. I hope that's okay.
That's great.
I hope you like awards time, right? I always like that at board meetings. Okay, so hello. I'm Nicole Kalia from the American Heart Association, and as you may or may not know, but now you do know, several of the elementary schools in your district participate in a program called Kids Heart Challenge. This program, hosted mainly through the school's physical education department, helps to educate students on the importance of heart health through physical activity and healthy habits. They also learn about and experience philanthropy through fundraising and helping others who have been affected by heart disease. And also, it's a lot of fun. So I'm here tonight to thank and honor these schools, as well as present a few amazing awards to one specific school. So first, I would like to thank Mr. Forte and Principal Asher at Novi Woods, and Mr. Smith, who I know has moved on from Orchard Hills, for their support as well. Those schools raised $7,700 and $2,800 respectively, and have long supported the AHA and Kids Heart Challenge, and I'm incredibly grateful for their support as well. So now I would like to take this time to bring up Mr. Taylor and Liam Constantine, actually. Mr. Francis, you want to come up too? Come on up. Yeah, why not? Okay, so the Deerfield community has embraced Kids Heart Challenge, and Mr. Taylor has created an experience that will truly impact Deerfield students for years to come. Mr. Taylor has rallied the staff and parent volunteers, as well as the students, to understand and support the American Heart Association's mission of longer and healthier lives for everyone. Every year, he sets a goal to register more students for Kids Heart Challenge, which allows us to reach more families, creating a safer and healthier community. He has spent the night on the roof and most recently endured slime from several of the students last year, and they weren't all nice about it, were they? No. So I will tell you this year, so every year though, Mr. Taylor never sets a monetary goal. The community just rallies around this event, and it's just amazing to see. And last year, Deerfield raised an astonishing $40,564.80, which deserves a round of applause.
Wow.
So not only did this earn Deerfield the top Michigan school for the 21-22 school year, but this amount has never been raised in the 42 history of our program in the state of Michigan. So another one.
Wow.
This accomplishment takes a dedicated leader, commitment from staff, supportive parents, and also incredible students like Liam and Willow, who couldn't be with us tonight. Liam was the school's top fundraiser last year, raising $5,674 just on his own. And another student, Willow, who couldn't be here tonight, was a top fundraiser for many years before that, and also earned a Heart Hero Award this year as well, a national honor, which is pretty amazing. So I'm honored tonight to present the top school in the state of Michigan. Here's Mr. Taylor. Congratulations. Get a top student award. Lindsay, thank you for your volunteerism, your creativity, and your devotion to making this a success, because you all know, and Mr. Taylor knows too, that it wouldn't happen without the support of all of you as well. And so from the bottom of my heart, yes, pun always intended, thank you for the dedication, grit, and tireless support of Kids Heart Challenge and the AHA. We truly could not fund the work that we do without the support like yours, and congratulations. Take your time.
Speech. Thank you, Nicole, very much. Thank you to Mr. Francis for coming out. He's our new hire, and he said yes without hesitation to come out and support me for this. I have to thank my girl Lane, who's not only a volunteer and a diehard Kids Heart Challenge supporter, but also my better half and somebody I wouldn't be here necessarily without. And Katie's here. Lindsay is not the volunteers that help me out and plan and give out instant gifts and help me out with everything and the daily goings-on of this program. To try not to go too long-winded, I wanted to be a teacher ever since I was in 3rd grade. I had a teacher named Mrs. Brady who figured out how to teach me, and from 3rd grade, the first day on, I was hers, she was mine. When I got to middle school, I had a man by the name of Mr. Heron, who was my middle school PE teacher. My brother and sister both had him, and it didn't matter if you were a goth or a skater or an athlete, he made everybody at our middle school love physical education and love him. At that time, I started to get better at sports, and so you want to be a teacher, you love sports, you put the two together, you get physical education. And 9 years ago, I stood up here and I accepted a job at Deerfield Elementary School, and it's truly been a dream job. Every single day I wake up, and I'm so lucky to be teaching in this district, to be doing what I wanted to do my entire life, and to be able to do things like this for a community that's embraced my program, who has made the conscious effort to not say gym and say PE class, which is a huge thing. But most importantly, like Nicole said, rallying around programs like this. Physical education is the thing that drives this program. They work hand in hand. Heart health, making sure you're making good, healthy choices in regards to your heart, and the knowledge that gets spread around through this program is invaluable, and like I said, it goes hand in hand with my program. I could have never imagined 7 or 8 years ago when I decided to do my first Kids Heart Challenge here that it would grow into all that it's become, and every year we hang what I call a championship banner outside of my office, which is marks and commemorates the year that we've done this, and there's 8 of them hanging up right now, and I can't wait to see how many more get filled in that gym. But I'm honored by this award. I'm honored by everybody's support, and I'm really thankful to be here and accept this for you tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to embarrass you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you say that every student participated?
A lot of students participated. I mean, the majority.
We probably had, oh gosh, what was our total?
See, this is why I have all the volunteers on my head.
No, I want to say, I think the.
Yeah, we had over 300 students at the school participate.
That's fantastic. I mean, did you do the first one over in the high school?
The first one that I did as Deerfield's PE teacher was at Deerfield, and then for 2 years we did them as a collective and did an event at the high school, and then I brought it back home to Deerfield.
Well, you had to, because you had too many kids.
That's right. Yeah, it was
Good problem.
too many kids.
And even during COVID.
Yes, and that the COVID year, spent the night up on the roof. A lot of people asked me if I went home at night. No, I stayed up there the entire night, and it was freezing.
We thought
But
that tent was gonna blow off. It was.
yeah, it was.
Wow.
It was. They marketed that as a 2-person tent. It was not at all. It barely had enough room for me in it. But I would do it all over again.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Thank
For
you.
your time.
Congratulations, Mr. Taylor, and to the entire Deerfield community and the Novi Community School District for taking on such a great challenge. Do any board members have any comments?
Sure, I'll make one.
Okay.
I probably don't need to tell you this, Mr. Ryan, I'll say, or Mr. Ben. But being newer, I want to speak from personal experience. All 3 of our kids went through Deerfield, and Danny had an opportunity to work with our youngest son, Thomas. And I used to be affiliated with the Novi Educational Foundation in quite a capacity for a number of years. And there were a lot of years, sadly, I think that most of the teachers in Deerfield Elementary School would not submit an application for a teacher grant, which is money for teachers to do something above and beyond what the budget through the district allows them to do. And consistently, Mr. Taylor was the only teacher in Deerfield that would submit a grant request. And somehow, every year, they were approved. And there were some eyes were raised, like I think the special one was the archery one, where, I mean, and these weren't like the toy arrows with rubber things at the end. They were like real compound bows and steel-tipped arrows, but it taught the kids discipline and commands and what that means, and it was really cool. And you always did that, Danny, and I want to compliment you on that and make sure that you know that and continue, Ryan, hopefully that through Deerfield and get more to apply for those grants, because I know the money's there. But I don't know, Danny, if you remember that I happened to be in the library or the media center on your very first day, as we gave, at that time, new teachers an envelope with $50 in it. And that particular morning, it was your first time coming there, and you were running maybe, right on time. And I'll never forget, I just knew he was the new physical education teacher. And dude, I don't know if you remember, you came in with the McDonald's bag. So I'm like, okay, this is great. The phys ed teacher's coming in right at the wire with a McDonald's bag. This is, only can go up from here, but it's better. But, I mean, the work that you do at the middle school and at the high school and at Deerfield, you're an amazing all-star and truly, Danny, an asset to our community and our school district. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay, moving on, we have an opportunity for comments from the audience. The green cards are in the back and kind of up front, so if you need to fill one out, we'll get it up here to the table. Individuals who wish to address the board must identify themselves, their address, and any organization they may represent. The board and individual board members will not directly respond to comments or questions that arise during the public participation portion of the meeting. Individuals who wish to address the board shall direct their comments to the entire board and not to individual board members, the superintendent, other school district employees, or members of the audience. Behavior that is intemperate, abusive, defamatory, or discourteous, or that otherwise interferes with the orderly conduct and timely completion of our board meeting is strictly prohibited. So, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Michener?
Good evening, board. Jason Michener, Novi resident. So I came exclusively tonight just to say thank you to Mr. Taylor for all his hard work. I can personally testify, even before he's had such tremendous success with the Heart Challenge, he personally made our family healthier. When my son started kindergarten, he came home the first week and he said, "Daddy, no sugar for breakfast." Mr. Taylor said so, my PE teacher, not Jim. We were like, oh, okay. And then I had a donut the next morning and I heard all about it. And so I just want to say, he has strived to make the children, and by extension, their families healthier, and Deerfield is definitely better for it. And as an added bonus, I think it's also great that Katie is here in the audience and Mrs. Birdyshaw, so that I can properly give them a thank you for all their years of dedication in Deerfield. Katie, for those of you who don't know, was a rock at Deerfield for years and years. She was there before my son was there, and she was working all the way up into the summer helping install, mulch and everything to get the reading hammocks ready. It is a tremendous loss for the community to not have her there helping out in the hallways and there almost every day. But thank you for all your hard work that you've done. And Miss Birdyshaw, I'm so glad that my son got to have her in third grade. She was the difference maker for him. I think we often talk about those teachers that make a difference. Mr. Taylor just mentioned a couple, and for my son, Miss Birdyshaw was that teacher for third grade. She may be that teacher that he always remembers, but I just wanted to say thank you very much for all your hard work and all the hard days you went through. It was worth it, at least for my family, because you really made a big difference for my son. So thank you very much. And thank you to Elaine, who is still at Deerfield, putting in lots of time and energy and effort. So it tremendously honored and fortunate to be in the Deerfield community. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason.
Ms.
Mr.
Birdie Shaw?
Do I need to set it now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Uh-oh.
I am Danielle Birdie-Shaw. Tonight, you accept my resignation from the Novi Community School District. I speak first for those who have not been spoken for. Last year, we said nothing when Natalie and Claire left not only Novi, but left teaching. Last month, we said nothing when Brittany and Maggie and Jenny left Novi for neighboring districts. Those are just the ones I know. I speak also here today about pay. So here's the contract I received when I was hired. Came with 11 and a half years of experience, but I took step one because this was Novi. And that decision has backfired on me time and again. My last paycheck in Novi will be just over step 8 on this document. Step 8 after 11 years, 9 months and 18 days of service. Step 8 out of 11 that existed then. And the 27 now, I'd have to be here another 17 or 18 years. I'd be in my 41st year of teaching or my first year of Social Security to reach the top. So chances are the person who fills my shoes will be a little cheaper than me. We'd like this to not be the case, but she'll probably look and sound a lot like me. I know the stats on college enrollment. She probably won't have advanced degrees in Orton-Gillingham trainings. She probably won't be a long-standing member on the state's Early Literacy Collaborative. She probably won't have been on the task force for the MDE's dyslexia program last spring I did. She may not be able to discuss graphophonological semantic cognitive processing. It's a real thing, it's super important. Typically don't get to it till advanced studies. Maybe that's all okay. But my fear is that what she won't be able to do. Likely she won't be able to live anywhere near here. She might drive in from an hour away. And she won't get home until even later than you'd think, because she'll leave here to go to her second job. She'll be with us, the so many Novi teachers who don't have dinner with our families, because we're at the Novi Library tutoring. And she won't do the things that sometimes matter the most. Last year, I went to the soccer and baseball games. I organized the family movie nights at Imagine. I jumped on the trampoline at launch for the birthday parties. Saved my cans for 8 months so we could have a late June can drive because one of my kids was a budding environmentalist. She'll want to do those things, but she won't have the time or the resources. But all of that still isn't why I'm leaving. I have to leave because, like some of you, I have teenagers, and I could no longer look my girls in the eyes when I talked about authority and relationships and self-worth. I realized I was no longer modeling healthy behaviors. I was in a toxic situation, thank you, where 7 people wielded great power over my well-being, but didn't appear to seek to understand me. I've heard this board say things like you can't accept a teacher contract that would have the fund equity dip to 9.9% on a 3-year projection. But I haven't seen you in our halls. In the last few years, I've seen COVID take a brutal toll on brilliant educators. But I haven't seen you guys. When my building went through 4 principals in 12 months, some of you live around the corner, but you didn't stop by. And this fall, when we all try to live into working under a brand new cabinet, none of you have looked in my eyes. So to my daughters, I say, empathy matters. You must leave relationships where people in power don't seek to be empathetic. Mom has to show you that tonight. Hashtag another teacher gone.
Thank you, Ms. Birdie Shaw. Mr. Cook?
That's all?
That's all?
That's all.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we are gonna move on to the superintendent's report. Mr. Micah.
Thank you. I would just like to say that the 3rd week of school, this week has been, really interesting because everybody kind of starts to settle down a little bit. One thing I will say is that I have noticed a tremendous amount of kindness in our students. So we walk through the halls, we say hello to kids, they are friendly back, they're not afraid to engage with adults. And there are just so many kind examples that I have just from the first few weeks of school. I won't list them all, but Mr. Gary, one of our bus drivers, just turned 70 years old. And all of the kids on his bus, they organized a plan to give him birthday cards and have signs at the stop. And, just made his day. And that's something very special about our kids and what they're able to do. And so it's a great start to the year. I'm very excited about the energy that we're seeing in the district. A couple things that I would like to kind of just bring up in way of announcement, and I know I have quite a bit to discuss for my report tonight. I apologize, but I do want to update you on a couple things. First of all, I'd like to, in addition to the great teachers that are moving on our personnel report tonight, I'd also like to say, Mr. McIntyre has served this district very well for the past couple years. And we're just really, excited for the next adventure in his life, and we appreciate the work that he did for the school district and his dedication. His decision to pursue new opportunities, we hope will be fulfilling, and we just really appreciate his work. We did post that position this week on Monday, and we'll be moving through that process. I also want to let you know that the Novi Mental Health Alliance, in collaboration with the Novi Educational Foundation, the Novi Community Coalition, the Friends of Novi Schools, CNS, SPN survivors, and the Novi Public Library will be bringing the first ever Novi Parent Camp. It's actually Parent Boot Camp to Novi High School on Saturday, October 8th. You've heard about this, you've seen flyers, but PJ Brady, who is the founder of the Brave, Smart, Kind Company and the author of the soon-to-be released book, Raising Kids to Be Brave, Smart, and Kind, will be our keynote speaker. I will be in attendance at this. There'll be breakout sessions on dealing with stress, mindfulness, college admissions, screen time, many others. And so breakfast will be provided, and childcare will also be provided for preschool and elementary school age kids free of charge. And we've also had some generous donors for raffle baskets that will be raffled off at the event. So registration is open and $5 per person, and the registration fee will be paid forward to foster more kindness in our community. So we're excited about that event coming up on October 8th. I had, at our last meeting, I had asked about a board work session. The purpose of the session would really be to talk about the way that our board is operating in relationship to the cabinet and to the superintendent. Not to say that there's anything majorly out of whack, but it's just an opportunity for us to establish norms, really talk about, are you getting the communication the way that you want to get the communication? Are our agendas set up in the way that, best serves the needs of the board? And then talk a little bit about, different roles and responsibilities. So I had sent out the poll. The majority of people, 6 of you, can attend the work session on October 13th from 5 to 7 p.m. So I was gonna go ahead and establish that date, and then hopefully most of you will be able to attend. So again, October 13th from 5 to 7 will be a work session, and we'll discuss some of those kind of preliminary norms and expectations. I'd like to show a graphic to the board. It is of the Village Oaks Playground, just so you have an update. Was out there today, and we had some really positive progress, so I don't know if we just need to switch over to that. Justin or Sheila, I'm not sure how we. So essentially, while they're getting that set up, we had talked about a timeline of September 26th being the date where we could get on the playground. That was our target date that was established. We are going to hit that date for the majority of the playground. We do have a couple areas that are going to be able to be utilized a few days later. So essentially what we're dealing with is the rubber surfacing that goes over a large portion of the playground where there's concrete currently. That rubber has about a 48-hour cure time, and we ran into some cooler weather, as you saw over the past couple days, and some rain. So as a result of that, that will push a couple of the areas. So if you can see this screen right here, the large area on the left there, this is kind of an aerial shot, that will be ready as scheduled, and so that's a large portion of the playground. And then if you look at and I apologize, I'm colorblind, but I think it's a blue or purple maybe.
Purple and red, purple on the bottom.
So purple on the bottom there, that will be ready 2 days later, and that's another significant portion that includes the swings and everything else. That will be ready on the 28th. And then 2 days after that, on the 30th, we'll have the other part of that structure. So we are on track with the weather to still hit the 26th for the majority of the playground, understanding that it'll be the 28th and the 30th for the other 2 days. So I'm pleased with the progress. If you get a chance to get out there, it's amazing. The Voice PTO is arranging a ribbon cutting ceremony. George is working with them on setting a date. I'll certainly let you know when that is, just because that would be a great opportunity to celebrate the new playground. I also want to let you know that we have on October 3rd, the first parent-to-parent book study that I'll be doing with the community will be called Screenwise. And we've plugged this book, the Novi Public Library has plugged this book, and we've also gotten, hopefully, the book into the hands of people who would be interested in participating. So that's going to be on October 3rd in the evening in the public library, and I'm looking forward to having a really good discussion with the community on that. All right, moving forward, I would like to talk about a topic that I brought up not only in my interviews, but I know I've shared some conversations with each of you about this topic, but I'd like to talk about the student board representative.
Thank you.
And I do truly want feedback on this, and what I'll share tonight, and I'll put it on the screens as well as give you a hard copy here. This is a draft of what my vision would be for the position, and this is really something that I would like you to help shape. But first and foremost, the district has had a history where you've had previously in the past, you had several students who would come and they may present a report on different activities that are going on in the district, things like that. What I'm looking for here, if you think this is appropriate, would be to have somebody who's a little bit more dedicated, who's going to be with us at every regular board meeting, sitting at the table. And typically it's going to be a junior or senior. In my experience, it's been a senior. And the high school student council and the high school administration would jointly determine a process for selecting this individual. And they would select the person who's going to be the board representative. There'd be an application process. They would recommend that candidate to an interview with myself. And then they would also select an alternate, because oftentimes what you have is sometimes the student might be an athlete. They may not necessarily be able to attend every single regular meeting, and so there'd be a backup person that could fill in their stead. But the responsibilities of the student board representative is really in an advisory capacity. They're not a person who's voting on things, but we talk about really wanting to, hear from our students directly. This person would be responsible for developing authentic ways of getting student voice into their hands that they could then share. So for example, they might say, I talked with students at Village Oaks and they shared that they didn't have quite enough time to eat lunch. And I'm not saying that that's a thing, I'm just telling you that that would be an example of something that they would want to maybe surface to the board during a report. They would have a standing report similar to mine, where they could share, sometimes it's gonna be events and things going on, but give you a report from all, around the district, and provide that representation to us. So this is an idea. Certainly we would hope that they would participate when asked. If you had a question about something, that you'd have a student here to be able to do that. They would build a little bit of a rapport with the board and understand a little bit more about how local governance, particularly at the school board level and school district level, goes. So this is kind of a draft right now. If you have comments, questions of any kind, I can take those now. And I'm certainly not asking for you to vote on anything right now. I just wanted to kind of get your feedback, see if this is something that you're interested in, and kind of gauge the temperature.
Thank you. Any comments?
Well, I'll just say I like that we're doing this. A couple years ago, I went to a workshop that MASB did, a presentation. It was a guy that had written a book about students on school boards, and Chelsea had a really interesting model where they had two students, one was a junior and one was a senior. They didn't both come to every meeting, but they both, they talked with each other, they kind of split their time in different places. And then, once the senior aged off, then the junior became the senior on the board, and so they had a little bit of. Yeah, they had kind of a succession plan for students, and that also allowed for better rapport, probably, and also a better understanding, certainly for the junior that moved into the role as the senior.
Sure.
Obviously, a 2-year commitment for a junior, I think there was 1 year that she did say that they had to find somebody else, the family ended up moving out of district, but for the most part, that commitment stayed true, so it seems like maybe that alternative student
Yeah.
could be.
I think that's a great idea, and one of the things that I would tell the high school team that's working on this is that it doesn't always necessarily have to be the typical, it doesn't have to be the student council president, it doesn't have to
Right.
be, it could be, they could have many different types of criteria,
Yeah,
really
they-
looking to get a different voice.
They actually had one of the board members and the student that was the junior there, because I think it was during the summer or something, so he was moving up into the senior position, and he kind of talked about what his interest is, because he was interested in going into politics. He wasn't really, he was, or some kind of,
Sure.
that was his idea, so he wasn't really involved in a ton of other things at school. I think he ran cross-country, if I remember correctly, and stuff, so, his focus was really, a lot of it was on the work that he needed to do for the school board. So
Yeah, that's kind of
It's
what
kind
we're
of-
looking for, is that level of
Yeah.
commitment to it, so.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments or questions?
I think it's a great idea to have this person here. I would hope that it's not always before, and hopefully this will be different. It was always kids from the same pool. And I would really like to get some other kids' opinions. So, I mean, that would be my only thing, that, we make sure that we look, far and wide for this
Sure.
person, not just the narrow group,
Yeah.
so.
Well, and they would have a responsibility to get feedback from all of the different groups of kids, not just, maybe the group that they identify as being a part of, right?
Mr. Mena?
Just to add on that, and I think this is adding more clarification to what Trustee Roney just said. I've had students complain to me in the past that the folks that were, a lot of times were selected to speak on behalf of the students, didn't really speak for them. So, and it was always, like Trustee Roney said, was a specific group of students, or a student that was always picked out of a specific group. So ideally, because we want to hear from all students, right?
Yeah.
There's not just one perspective out there, there's a lot of perspectives out there. So I think, if we can figure out a way where we can get student voice, yet get all student voice,
Yep.
if there's a way you can ensure that could happen.
So one of the things that can grow out of this, I'd like to get the position established. In my previous district, we actually did board roundtables with students, and we brought, the student representative helped to organize it. It was kind of an event that they planned, right? And I gave them some parameters, but essentially their job was to get a very diverse group of kids from, all different groups of students that we serve. And we would then invite board members to go and sit, and we talk about issues and things that are going on. Usually that could happen really at anywhere from Meadows on up. I mean, you could probably even do it in elementary school. They'll be very honest with you, but, it's really interesting, they'll all be pretty honest with you, but, so I'd love to see that happen, maybe even this year, just so that you can hear from them directly.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
So again, just to add on to that, if the goal is to get more student voice up to the board, then setting something up like that where we can talk to, we all talk to students,
Sure.
but to get a collective group of students and get more voices,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
is better than just having one student,
sure.
right? I mean, I certainly agree, it would be nice to have student representation up here like we used to, that kind of gives us an update as to, you know, some of the happenings
Sure.
at whatever school they're representing. But as far as student voice is concerned, you know, having some sort of a workshop once in a while where we can actually listen to a host of students
Yeah.
about issues would be great.
That would be.
I think one of the ideas I brought up at some point, I don't remember if it was directly with you or just with the group, I'm not sure, but maybe under the responsibility somewhere, when this comes forward as a official document, is that they're responsible for maybe some student surveys, because then they're not just sharing their voice or their opinion, but they're sharing as many of us had said, that they're sharing a wide range of voice from other students. So they're really just reporting back what, you know, there's a concern, there's a question, or how do you all feel about it, and they're bringing that information back.
That's great. I definitely appreciate your feedback. If you have,
Yeah, my last 2 cents is I think it's great to establish the position. You know, I see Jason Smith is in the audience. He had something similar like this with the NEF, and we had student representation. I think at one point, Jason, you had 20 students cycling through, juniors and seniors. There was no shortage of interest from the high school when we asked for people that, so, and I thought it was interesting, even listening to Danny talk about, I think he used the words goths and skaters, which I don't know, I'm not sure what a skater is, but even back when guys like my age were in school, there were, you know, jocks and National Honor Society people and all the above. Maybe it would be a quarterly position, because, you know, these kids tend to have band, or they've got lessons and tutoring, and then they've got homework, and, you know, in the past, Ben, you might be aware, it was really a ceremonial position where a young student would talk for 3 to 4 minutes, barely introduce themselves, and then get up and leave. So it really wasn't a board position, but
Right.
maybe if we had 12 people nominated, then we could, you know, interview and select and rotate that on a quarterly basis and give more people, and hopefully, to Willie's point, more student voice and opportunity to come and sit. I don't know, that's, whatever, give us a thought.
So thank you for that, and if you have further feedback, please don't hesitate to shoot it over to me. I'm going to try and take that feedback, encompass that in a new document. Yeah,
Well, I was just gonna say, you know, obviously, it sounds like you did this in your past district.
yep,
And you had one student that was responsible for really collecting the information and bringing it back. And did you find that was effective? Did you have, I'm just curious
What
if you
made
had.
what made it super effective is that they were the point person, and so I will have groups that I meet with students just as a superintendent, but they created an opportunity for the board, and so I obviously helped them get started, but they had the full responsibility to essentially establish creating these board roundtables, to do surveys, to go to elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, make sure that they were hearing from the students, and then they would talk about real issues. You know, certainly there's an element of it that's, hey, the band has this going on, and, you know,
Sure.
this is going on in the sports programs, but, you know, there's also, you know, this is kind of what students are saying about the day in the life of a Novi community school
So it
district.
sounds like almost like a liaison position, a little bit,
It
with
is,
a little
and
bit of that.
The advantage of having, and I think you know, Tom's point, you could probably incorporate a couple different kids throughout the year. One advantage of having the point person kind of organize that is that you do end up hearing from a bunch of different kids, but they know that's their responsibility, and they're kind of able to kind of facilitate
Yeah.
that. So it's usually a great thing for a student to, if you get, you know, that'll be part of the criteria, but
Right.
so, you know, it's worth a shot, and we can always adjust and tweak this, you know, depending on if
Sure.
you like how it's going, or, you know, wanna make adjustments, so.
Cool.
So
Or if we're
I'll,
burning students out right and left.
yeah, I will, but to, your earlier point, there may be a student that this is their thing, right? This is their jam. this is what they wanna do, right? And so it gives them some practical experience,
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah, there's that piece too, absolutely. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna shift over into, talking about the SEAB, the Sex Education Advisory Board, process. So, we'll put up a document that, I have a hard copy of here. I wanna thank, Mr. Jeremini for his hard work on this. He really was, the mastermind behind this, but, you know, together, we just really kind of brainstormed what this would look like. And obviously, I do understand, and we'll just name that, you know, there were things that, you know, there were history here and things that surrounded all of this. You know, my intention here after our last policy meeting and talking with Tom a little bit was to say, okay, maybe I can pick up the baton and put something together that you can look at as a board. Again, this is not, I'm not asking you to approve anything tonight, but I wanted to go through this as a concept and get your feedback. So the first part of the process would be to present this process to the Board of Education for informational review. That would be tonight. And then for potential approval, not until October 6th. The next step of the process is upon approval of this process. So the law requires the board to do two things. Number one, you need to actually vote to approve the co-chairs of this board. And number two, the law requires that you have to vote to approve the process. So that is what I've, you know, and Mike has created for you today. So if you approve this process, then the first step would be to contact the current SEAB members, let them know that we'll be reconstituting the group, to engage them, and basically to say that we will, you know, let them apply again if they're still interested. And the goal of that is to say we're kind of relaunching this thing. On the 10th of October, we would share an interest form with all families, the staff, and then students in grades 10 and up. And we would also be sharing this interest form with the broader community, including places of faith and health organizations. Mike, if you could pull up the interest form itself, I just want to kind of go through that so you can kind of see. This is the actual document that we would send to all families. And,
1 sec, sorry.
oh, that's all right. So I'll keep talking while he's pulling that up. The idea would be that the members would serve 3-year terms, and there would be up to 26 members on this committee. So it's a big group. And so part of that is to be in compliance with the law, you have to have at least 50% of the people on the committee to be parents. So that leads it, you know, that drives that number up quite a bit. So this is the form that we would be sending out. Obviously, name, address, phone number, and then they would describe their role. But there are a couple questions here. So, you know, why are you interested on serving on the SEAB board, right? Hopefully they can provide a statement of their why there. What assets, background, and past experience, knowledge do you have that may assist the committee in its work? In general, what are your thoughts and ideas regarding health and sex education within public schools? And then please share any comments about sex education within Novi Community School District in particular. And then, of course, are you willing to attend approximately 4 afternoon or evening meetings each school year for a period of 3 years, kind of getting that commitment. But as you can see, what we're gonna try and do is gauge where people are at on this in an effort to try and create balance on this committee. So if you look at the 17th of October, that's when the interest form would close, and we would begin to review the applicants. We would be selecting the board members on obviously their application, including their experience, vision, and particular interest in joining the SEAB. At least half of them must be parents or guardians of current Novi kids. The majority of this set must also not be employed by the school district, so that's another little factor. So what we've done is we've basically taken the law and we've kind of gone through and make sure we're hitting all of those pieces. Again, we would have to have clergy, we would have to have members from the staff, a district nurse, Mike would certainly be the person that would be helping to coordinate and facilitate. So we were gonna be recommending then the co-chairs on the 20th of October, which is another board meeting. And that is something where you would have to vote as a board. One sex education supervisor, that position is currently posted. And then also one parent or guardian. So we would present the co-chairs for approval and then have the membership list available for information for you on the 20th. And then we would be able to start the work, hopefully, shortly into November, late October. So, this kind of lays out a timeline and a process that we would go through to be able to do that. And then at the bottom there, we list the anticipated members of the SEAB board. So we have our sex education supervisor, the district nurse, the assistant superintendent of academics. We would have a teacher from all 3 different grade levels where the sex education is taught in the schools. We would have some additional ancillary staff from special education, school of social work, those types of things. There's an Oakland Schools health education consultant, 2 clergy members. Our idea is to try and represent the diversity of faiths in our district, so looking to try and find a couple different clergy, as well as a couple students, and then that leaves us with 13 parents, which brings us to 26. So that's our idea for this process, which would allow for the board then, coming up on this timeline to be able to approve the process and then us get started. I think, in speaking with a couple of you, the typical process for this would be, and we did talk about this at the policy committee would review it, it would then go to the curriculum committee. And a lot of these things probably would have been done in the spring, but there was a bit of things going on in the district at that time. So we are picking up the baton and just trying to help get this to a place where we can get this board started and follow our legal obligation. So I'll take questions if you have them, if you have feedback. If you're not really up for that tonight, you can send them to me, but.
I have
Good.
just one really quick question. It's kind of a technical question, and I don't know. In terms of if half of them have to be parents in the district, does that have to be consistent over the 3 years, or is it just the start? Because if it has to be consistent over the 3 years that you have 50%, then one of the questions that needs to probably be on that form is how old are your children in the district? Because if you want to keep 50%, like, that have students, because somebody might have a senior and then they're gone, and then the next year you have 2 people that had juniors and they're gone, they're not in that 50% anymore.
Well, my hope is we'd have a waiting list, Bobby.
Well, that would be great, but if this is a 3-year term, that's all I'm saying is I don't know, you can't kick people off, or you can't be on anymore because your kid is gone and we need another parent because we have to stay at 50%. I mean, can you?
Well, I think you do have to stay at 50%, and I think some of the questions in that interest form do lend itself to what grade are your students,
Oh, it does have it. I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
missed that part.
And
Okay.
that would allow us that opportunity, ideally you'd have a 9th grade or 10th grade parent, right? And then you'd have a couple others
Right.
from lower levels. But I would think that if a person didn't have students in the district and we went to that, they could resign that and then the board could appoint, a new person, to Tom's point, probably from a waiting list.
Okay.
People. But that's a good point.
I was just curious.
So to that point, since this is the beginning, it is a 3-year term, but in the first several years, you'll probably need to reappoint and do interest forms as they roll off. And then when you get into that 3rd year, now you have a plethora where that won't seem to happen. But the first couple of years, you're going to be going through this process. Like, who gets put on this year isn't gonna last for 3 years, potentially.
Right,
because
you can
it's
imagine
new.
that there will be people who might, after a year, be unable to continue. They might move out of the area and not be able to participate, those kinds of things. So it won't be everybody at once gets refreshed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this would typically happen in the springtime, not this time of year, but we're
Right.
trying to get this off the ground, so,
Right.
yep.
Do we have any other specific questions that we want to ask at this point? I want to say that I really appreciate the 2 of you working through this process. As was pointed out, there were some things that we needed to make sure that we as a board were in compliance, and I know that the policy committee worked really hard over the last year, and I think to continue to I don't want to say kick it to policy committee and then curriculum, and here we are, maybe next April. So I do appreciate you facilitating this to kind of get the ball rolling and really get it back up and running as quickly as possible.
Yeah, my pleasure. And that concludes my report.
Wow.
That was a lot.
Okay. We will move on to our administrative reports, and we will start with Dr. Carino. Hello. Hi.
We have been very busy in the Office of Human Resources. We are excited to share that we are holding our first paraprofessional online job fair. We are holding sessions on Zoom next Monday and Tuesday, the 26th and 27th of September, and the following Monday and Tuesday, October 3rd and October 4th. So we shared this on social media earlier this week, and the majority of the slots have already been taken for online screening, so we were very excited. Typically a position that we have a hard time filling, and we are very excited of the interest that it has generated. So we're really looking forward to meeting with the candidates. We also have begun reaching out to local education programs at local colleges and universities, such as Oakland University, Eastern Michigan, Wayne State, to begin talking to their School of Ed department leads and contacts to really begin collaborative relationships to talk about recruiting high-quality candidates who are also very diverse. So we want to make sure that we are building those relationships. That's a priority for both Mr. Meinke and myself, to be able to recruit high-quality, diverse candidates. And so we wanted to start with the teacher education programs and college events that are local to us to begin some relationships with them. And we're looking forward to having some great conversations with various organizations. We're also reviewing a lot of our policies and procedures, and so we're actually going to be bringing some of that to you in October regarding our visitor and volunteer policies. We have our new Raptor system, which is a visitor management system that was installed last year, but we are ready to hopefully get up and running in the month of October. And we will be transitioning to a digital iChat form for all volunteers in schools. So instead of all parents filling out a paper copy, we'll have an online Google form to kind of eliminate and make it easier for parent volunteers to volunteer in the schools. So we've been busy, but we're excited about the things that are coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Giormini.
Thank you very much. Just a few quick items for you this evening. Oakland Schools, our intermediate school district, has refreshed what they call the Teaching and Learning Council. It's a group that meets monthly. It is people like me from all over the county, so people in my role from all the districts in the county. And it's a collaborative team really designated for the purpose of working together, common goals, and improving teaching and learning across the county. It's a different way of doing things than they've done in the recent past, so it's a nice reboot. And I'm really excited to learn together and contribute and bring back some things that I can learn from my colleagues. On Tuesday, we held our first Novi Instructional Leadership Team, NILT, meeting. And the Oakland Community Health Network actually came and presented to us. And that group works to connect families with low to no cost mental health resources and supports. And we're able to make referrals to them. And so our administrative team, all of our building administrators and leaders, we're able to learn about the resources that this program offers, figure out how we can connect. And in October, they're actually going to be coming and meeting with our counselors and our social workers so that we can take full advantage of what this program offers. And then yesterday was Wednesday, our Novi Rotary, we had a few volunteers from Rotary visit the Early Childhood Education Center and read to students. Exciting time, beginning of the school year, getting into the building. I know the kids love the stories, and we're very appreciative of our volunteers' time and their support. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. We'll move on to board communication. If any board members have any communication that they would like to share. Mrs. Hood.
I went to the NEF, many of us went to the NEF pancake breakfast. And those, I swear, were the best pancakes I have had in a very, very long time. So congratulations to whoever was flipping the pancakes in the back. And then secondly, I will, when we get to our donations and we accept our donation from the Friends of Novi Schools, I have a question about that. But before we get to that, So in NPR Wednesday morning, it's on my alarm, they were talking about the MASA conference, and that David Arson, who is a professor of education at Michigan State University, was presenting his findings, or their findings, on a recent study that Michigan State did about Michigan's rural schools and communities. So it was, I think, a breakout session, because I went
Yeah.
online and looked it up, and I assume you did not attend.
We're not overly rural, so I didn't,
Exactly,
you know.
exactly. And there were, looking at the agenda,
Yeah.
you had a ton of things.
There were
that-
many
Yes.
choices, yeah.
But one of the things, so we had some kind of sad, unfortunate commentary this evening. But one of the things in this report, and I would encourage anyone to Google it, it's on Michigan State University's Department of Education, their website. But a couple statistics stood out, which are not focused, what do I want to say? They're Michigan statistics. They're not rural statistics only. And around mental health staffing, one of it came, the subject came up because it was the number 2 issue for the rural superintendents. This was a 3-year study. So Michigan has among, I'm going to read this little blurb. Michigan has among the worst staffing ratios for student mental health services. In 16 rural counties, there are more than 1,000 people for every mental health professional. In Michigan, so a Michigan statistic, the recommended guidance for school nurses is 1 per 750 students. In Michigan, it is 1 per 4,199 students. And they rank school psychologists, social workers, and the best statistic that Michigan's best statistic is among school counselors. So the guidance is 1 in 250, which I know we have talked about many times at this table. And Michigan's is 1 in 744. So I don't know if it is a lack of focus at the state level. Much of it is lack of funding, and I think we see that with our teacher pay and all the things that are contributing to really what is becoming a dire situation in support of our students statewide. So anyway, it's an interesting report, and I congratulate Michigan State. They have one of the best education schools in the country, and they always come up with good, interesting, thoughtful things like this. But I have a question about mental health when we get to our gift receiving. Thank you.
Okay.
Would it be okay if I
Yes,
made a
please.
comment to that? The neat thing about the commitment in Novi to our counseling support, for example, at our high school, we're now at 6, which puts us less than half of the state average. So that's a really good statistic for us.
It is.
But it is alarming across the state, and so we encourage more funding into that mental health area for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Roney?
Okay, last night I attended the OCSBA, which is Oakland County Schools Board Association. They have annual meetings, and I did one last night. It was a dinner business meeting. They do a little bit of board work, and then we had an excellent speaker, at least on my thought. His name was Jason Russell, and he is secured education consultant. And so he went through, this and that, like the drills. When you do a drill, make sure you use everything you would as if it was really happening, So like, one of the things he talks about is spread the alert. And so, it was just real interesting. And then at the end, we did a little drill. So fortunately, our group made it out alive. So that was exciting. That's why I'm here tonight. But it was very informative. I
Did some
think
of them not?
no, some
Oh,
of them-
fake.
fake,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Fake thing, But I guess we've worked with them before, and they were wonderful. But also the special education kids, designed leaves that decorated the table. And also they had little rocks, that gave inspirational quotes that
That you
they
can give to your
made
friends.
and decorated. So that was really, really fun. So it was a good night. And you know, if more you wanna come, it was pretty fun. So that's all I have to say.
Thank
Oh,
you.
other than we have Taste Fest Friday night. So,
Yes, thank you for going. I know that you always attend, and it's much appreciated that you represent our board. And, you know, in the past, other people have attended, and with COVID, I think it kind of fell off the wagon a little bit. So thanks for that reminder, and I'm glad it was a good experience. I think that Jason Russell has been here in Novi and consulted with our team, especially after the Oxford situation. I do remember him meeting with our SROs and having him in the big group meeting that was had in this room. So it's fantastic that he's out sharing his knowledge with the community.
he mentioned something about, state grants too. You can hire somebody, I don't know who, the state, maybe state police or whatever, to assess our plan. So, and you can get a state grant for that, they're available. So,
Thank you. Any other, Mr. Smith, please?
I don't have a solution. I just wanted to raise our consciousness. I know, obviously, we've all sat around this table over the last year and have heard at least a dozen times something to the effect of do better, or you guys can do better. So I'd like us to think about over the next month or two how we can do our best to be transparent to the extent possible as we go through these contract negotiations. You know, as I listened to the comments from Mrs. Birdie Shaw tonight, it wasn't fun, but part of it was I'm sitting here thinking, well, you know, we were instructed to stay out of the schools for the last 2 years. So there was no chance of me running into her in the hallway, as an example. So that's an issue of transparency. I don't know if our teachers know that, other than within the last 2 weeks, we were finally assigned building assignments again. But as a parent and as a board member, I was requested to not go into the school buildings. So I also know that we sat around this table and let go some of our best teachers because we weren't sure about funding for the next year. And then it turned out to be much ado about nothing, really. But I don't know how transparent we're being in letting people know the reality is things are different today than they were a year or two ago. 2 years ago, I don't think McDonald's was starting people at $16.50 an hour. So how we hired people 7 to 10 years ago is different for a number of different reasons than how things are now. And I think as a board, it's our responsibility to try to be as transparent as possible and with regards to our finances. You know, 9.9 is less than 10. A is A. So I think we just, I think, need to try better at this time. The reality is, and we all know this now, is teachers that we normally would hire maybe at a step 3 are going into other districts and getting a higher step because it's that competitive now. There was a time, all of us remember, when people were leaving Michigan because there were no teaching jobs. So I just want to encourage us, out of respect and love and appreciation for the teachers we have, like the Danny Taylors, I want us to retain everyone that we have. I'd like them to feel appreciated and loved, but we also can't just raise taxes and pay more people more money. And as a former resident, before I sat in this chair, I honestly didn't understand how funding worked. I thought, we're Novi, why can't we just raise more money and hire more teachers and do whatever we want? And the reality is we cannot. And we cannot control that budget other than by our votes within the state. And I honestly know that there's some ignorance out there as it relates to really how that process works. So whether we do a workshop to help people understand, hey, it's the people that we've all voted for that are making decisions in Lansing that's really dictating how much we're able to pay these teachers. So I just think, I hope we can, I just want us to do a good job, because it kills me to hear any one of our teachers say they didn't feel supported. That's just, it hurts, because it's not true for me. So, anyway. I just
Thank you,
wanted-
Tom.
Yeah.
I don't want to get down a bunny trail, but we did try to do a school, this is before you were on the board, like a school finance 101 when we were going through some tough stuff to truly, and I thought that, I think it was even Jill that did it. I mean, I've been here through what, 5?
Turn of the century.
Finance, turn of the century. But it was one of our finance people. Sheila, you might remember. Somebody tried to do like a finance 101. They did a great presentation. They went on to each one of the schools to try and educate people. They got very little attendance. I mean, the people that came were very appreciative, but it really wasn't very well attended. So, I mean, I don't know what the solution is, but now you know. There's one more thing for you to take on.
Ben, go get us some more money, will you?
You know, but
Love to do
that
that.
whole idea that, you're right, I mean, half the community says, well, all my tax dollars go to, and I was like, well, that's not really true, because if you send your kids to a private school, we don't get the foundation dollars, and, it's just, they don't get that.
There's a lot of intricacies.
Well, yeah, it's a complicated system.
Right,
It's a
right.
very
Yeah.
complicated system.
And it's not necessarily, it doesn't have anything to do, so part of the Equitable Schools Initiative over the past few years has been to close the gap between maybe wealthier communities that are getting more per student versus those that are not. But it is absolutely a fundamental fact that people will say, well, because we're in Novi, and we do have a lot of people that have, affluence, but that doesn't translate one iota to how much money we get from the state. So those are fixed costs, and then we have to make decisions around what we do with those dollars. And so, that's something that I think, I'll be happy to share and do a presentation or a workshop to that effect,
I
because
just
there's
think
a
that would
lot
be
to
good,
it.
because it's hard. We want to hire mental health professionals. We want to pay our teachers more.
Yeah.
And both, as my friend Sharon says.
On another note, I got to go to a field hockey game Saturday. They had like 4 different teams there, 2 from Pennsylvania. Mercy was there. They played one game at U of M, the girls did, and then they played the rest at Novi High School Stadium. It was like a 10:30 in the morning game. And they're really good this year. So I would encourage you. You probably don't understand the game, most people don't, but they're very good this year. And they beat Huron, I think, last week, probably last week, which they haven't beat Huron in like 10 years. So it's kind of exciting time on the Novi field hockey team. And the middle school team, because they have a middle school team now, just had their first victory. So kind of exciting over there.
Very
Good
cool.
things happening, and kids that, they're out there. It's interesting. Not all sports are like this, but field hockey is actually a very, like they had a pizza party afterwards for all the teams. Like they do that, like as a, it's not supposed to be like this cutthroat, once you're off the field, it's all gone. Let's go do something together kind of thing. So anyways, it was fun to be out there. It was a beautiful day, and it's fun to see them win.
That's awesome.
Thanks for going.
Yeah.
And I didn't know field hockey was complicated. I've never been. I thought maybe you just put the puck in the net and then you move to the other side, but
Well, you
I
do,
might have
but-
to go.
It isn't that complicated. The calls are complicated. Like parents were like, "What was that call? What was that call?"
Okay, I guess I need to go. That'll be my next stop in the district. All right.
Jenny, can I pull a Bobby here
Sure.
and make another comment?
Yeah.
To Tom's point about the teachers, talking to I talked to like 5 different districts about how teachers are leaving to go to another district. It's just, people can't keep them because they'll go here to get more money and then that person is stolen from another district to replace them. And I don't mean stolen, but, they leave, and it's, unfortunately, that's the climate right now, because we have a shortage, of superintendents and
Everything.
And so, I mean, it's really unfortunate, but that is the climate out there, so.
Thank you. Okay, I think that we're good on board communications, since I've shown my ignorance to the whole community about the ball and the puck. But we're gonna move on to the consent agenda. We have approval of minutes, the regular meeting minutes of September 8th, 2022. If I can get a motion?
Move to approve.
Support.
Recommended by Mrs. Murphy and supported by Mrs. Roney. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next on our agenda is our donations. We have 2 donation items this evening. We will start with our robotics. Mr. Micah.
So the first robotics donation totals $10,500, and these were donated to the sponsor, the Frog Force First Robotics teams. The generous donations were given by the following sponsors: Nissan, First in Michigan, and Changer and Dresser. And these recommendations, as I said, total $10,500. And so the recommendation is that the Novi Community Schools Board of Education accept the donation as presented with appreciation.
If I can get a motion? Mrs. Hood?
I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education accept the donations as presented with appreciation and thanks.
Support.
Recommended by Mrs. Hood and supported by Mr. Cook. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Besides, thank you, and
Well,
we're-
Big thank you.
So Changer and Dresser, that's a place?
Yes, I
see.
believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just curious.
we'll have to look it up now when we
When
get there.
I first saw it, I'm like, they gave him a changing table with a dresser? Why would they need that? That was what I was thinking, seriously.
Okay, seeing no other comments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Our next donation is Community Financial Credit Union and Friends of Novi Schools. Mr. Micah.
So had the pleasure of working with Jason Smith and the Friends of Novi Schools, which is a new organization supporting mental health, safety, and well-being. And they're presenting to the Novi Community School District buildings generous donations totaling $12,700 through Community Financial Credit Union. There's a slide, I believe, that we can pull up and get into the detail of that a second. So the slide will be able to identify the 4 main areas, actually 5 main areas that these grants are going to support. So at our K-6 buildings, they're donating $500 per school for Zen room supplies. That's gonna be a total amount of $3,000. And in our K-6 buildings, $500 per school for calming caddy supplies. Also in our K-6 buildings, $500 per school for student sensory items. We have a few different books that we're going to be looking at. Connections Over Compliance is a great neuroscience book that talks about trauma and mental well-being. That will be for our administrative team, and so that was totaling $700. And then all of our K-12 buildings are getting 15 first aid kits per building at a total of $3,000. And so Jason's here if you have questions, but Community Financial Credit Union really stepped up, and I just thank Jason so much and Friends of Novi Schools for kind of coordinating this effort, to provide these much needed supports.
Thank you.
Oh.
Mrs. Hood?
You need a motion first.
I do.
Shall I do that?
Sure.
Okay. I move that the Novi Community School District, I move that the Novi Community Schools Board of Education accept the donations as presented with appreciation and thanks.
Do we have support?
Support.
Recommended by Mrs. Hood and supported by Mrs. Roney. And Mrs. Hood has a question.
I do. So Friends of Novi Schools is, I believe, kind of the brainchild of our own Mr. Smith. But I believe that another Mr. Smith kind of does all the footwork and busy stuff. No, that's just my perception. But the question I had, a serious question, is when this came into our packet, I thought this is fabulous, but I am quite certain that the kind folks at Community Financial didn't come up with this list of gifts or items on their own, and I just kind of wondered how we came up with the set of things. No offense, Mr. Smith.
He's the good looking.
To Mr. Smith's, not related, but just great friends that want to make a positive difference in the community. I will tell you that I met with Community Financial Credit Union about a month ago. And they're having a all-employee in-service day on October 10th. They're going to be approximately 320 employees over at the Suburban Collection Showplace. And they said, we want to make a difference. We have about 90 minutes, and we can't go any further than Novi. Jason, can you help? I said, of course I can. You come to the right place. So I had reached out to all of the social workers in our K-6 buildings and said, hey, if I could get kind of a wish list of what you're looking for, if I could get some money to fill that wish list, would that satisfy some of the needs you have in your building? I immediately met with Claudia, the social worker at Orchard Hills, and within a day, she came back with a list and said, I need this, 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 and this. So I gave that list to Community Financial, and they said, we love this list. How about we multiply that and go to every school for equity of opportunity? I said, well, okay, what's your budget? They said, don't worry about a budget.
Huh.
Okay, that's what I like to hear. Sounds good. So it was actually Orchard Hills and Claudia who came up with the Zen Room supplies, Calming Caddy supplies, and student sensory supplies. Last Thursday, I had a Zoom meeting with all of the social workers, K-6, and said, hey, here's how much money you're going to get per building. Would you please supply me a list? I've already received lists from 4 of the 6 buildings, with the other 2 coming tomorrow. I said, if the Board of Ed accepts this gift, we're going to go ahead and place some orders on Friday, totaling somewhere around $9,000, another $3,000 for the first aid kits that Kathy Ferris, the district nurse, has asked for, and then some books for the administration. What's going to happen, sorry, it's a long-winded answer to your question, is on October 10th, the 320 employees from Community Financial Credit Union are going to come to our school district. They're going to go to the middle school and to the high school. It's personal development day, so there'll be no students in those buildings. They're going to assemble the gifts, and then they're going to take them to each of the buildings and show them how much that they appreciate our principals and our social workers in those schools. So some of the asks that I've received, when I looked at this, you know, whether it's Zen Zone, whether it's Calming Caddies, whether it's sensory supplies, they kind of all fit together. We've been asked for yoga mats, sensory balls, fidget spinners, the game's Chutes and Ladders, the game Candyland, bean bags, full-size teddy bears, yoga card games, Bluetooth speakers, bubble fish aqua lamps, popper fidget games, magnet building sticks, brain teasers, just a couple more, a ball pillow, putty, a foot fidget cushion, an inflatable reading canoe, sensory sticks, Jenga, and a ton of stuffed animals. So every request that you see on this sheet here, and then all of the details that will come back from behind this sheet, were all direct requests from the social workers and the principals in our schools.
Wow, thank you.
Thanks for sharing that, Jason, and all the work that you did with that. And then I also know that you met with Mr. Meinke and had a conversation, so that's perfect. Everybody's rowing the boat in the same direction.
We are, and there's also going to be something special that's going to touch every middle school and high school student on October 10th too, but we're trying to keep that a little bit secret. So really, every student in the district is going to be impacted by the generosity of Community Financial Credit Union.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thanks. Does anybody else have any specific questions?
No, it's a good question.
Okay, thank you. So if we are ready for a vote, I would say all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you to Community Financial and thank you to our Friends of Novi Schools. We will move on to our next agenda item, which is closed session. We are going into closed session for two purposes. The purpose of negotiations under OMA Section 8 parentheses 2. And the second reason is to consider, I think that's supposed to be real estate property, and that is OMA Section 8 parentheses 3. So we need a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Support.
I'll open them out. Recommended by
You have to
Mr.
state why, you guys have to, in the motion has
Willie.
to state why we're going into it.
We just, like I
You,
said,
I think you have to do it, Mr.
okay,
Parliamentarian
move
over here.
Move to go into closed session for the purposes as presented in OMA section 8.2 and 8.3.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, roll call.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Hood?
Yes.
Mr. Mena?
Yes.
Mrs. Murphy, yes. Mrs. Roney?
Yes.
Dr. Ruskin?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
7-0. Okay, so we'll take a little break here and get into our closed session. And then just so that the audience who is watching and that is here knows, there are several items on our agenda after this. We have 2 action items and 1 information and discussion item. So we'll be back in this room to discuss those things.
Thank you, Ryan.
Okay, we are now out of closed session, so we're gonna move to our 2 action items this evening, and our first one is the personnel report. Mr. Meinka.
All right, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Carino to share the personnel report.
Thank you. We have 5 resignations tonight, as well as 1 retirement. So Gregory McIntyre, the Assistant Superintendent of Business Operations, has resigned effective September 16th. Danielle Burdyshaw, 3rd grade teacher at Deerfield, resigned effective September 21st. Christopher Laney, PE and health teacher at the middle school, resigned effective September 23rd. Stephanie Nelson, special ed para at the NATC, resigned effective September 30th. And Gomathi Rajamani, the ESB administrative assistant for the Office of Academics, resigned effective September 9th. Michelle Warwick is the bookkeeper at the high school, will be retiring on October 14th. And that is all I have for you this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Carino. If I can get a motion, Mr. Cook?
I move that the Novi Community School District Board of Education adopts the personnel report recommendations as presented.
Do we have support?
Support.
Recommended by Mr. Cook and supported by Mr. Smith. Do we have any questions or comments?
Can I just
Yes, please.
ask about the assistant, didn't we just hire the administrative assistant for academics?
Yes, she had a family emergency and had to return to India and did not expect that she would be able to return anytime in the near future.
I was gonna say she was here, she was so
Yeah,
excited to
and
be here.
so unfortunately,
Oh,
she was not
that's-
able to maintain the
That's
position.
so unfortunate. Okay. Thank you for that explanation. I didn't think you'd scared her off.
Not yet.
Mrs. Hood, did you have a question?
I didn't have a question. I just wanted to say that this is, it is, I feel bad, and it is unfortunate when the district loses good people to do other things, granted. But anyway, it's just kind of sobering and somber to me. This won't be a happy yes for me.
Thank you.
I just know
Mrs.
my
Rowley?
kids love Mr. Laney. I mean, they just, I mean, I think he did he do something with football too, Willie?
Yeah, Mr. Laney is the football coach at Divine Child High School, so he's actually going to teach there now. Now, he still stays in the system because they have a reciprocal agreement with, I think, Dearborn Heights Crestwood. So, and it's right in his backyard, so he's not only going to be teaching at a school that's in his backyard, from what I understand, but also a school that he's head varsity football coach for, so good for him. I think it's,
Yeah, because my daughter cheered, and I think Laney helped coach, and she just loved him. So that'll be sad to see him go, but happy for him.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I think we're ready for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 7-0. Our next action item is the land swap. Mr. Meinka.
So the City of Novi and us as a school district have been meeting actually for the better part of 2.5 years on this agreement. Since I started, we've met several times, obviously trying to get this moved forward. We've had conversations since December of 2020, and a full proposal was presented and discussed at the board meeting on November 18th in 2021. And it was brought to the board on September 8th for further discussion and comes for action tonight. I would recommend whoever's making the motion that you do a roll call vote on this particular item.
Thank you. Mr. Mena?
yeah, I move that the board approve the property exchange agreement as presented tonight.
Do we have support?
Support.
Recommended by Mr. Mena and supported by Mrs. Roney. Do we have any comments or questions before we take a roll call vote?
No, I'll just say, I just really appreciate all the work and the due diligence that's been done around this. I know there's been a lot of behind-the-scenes things going on where we're consulting and making sure that, our ducks are all in a row.
Yeah.
And that feels good. I know it's been in the works for a long time, but sometimes that's taking it slow and making sure we get it right is important.
For sure.
Thanks for all the work, both this from the city and from this end.
Mr. Mena?
Yeah, the taxpayers of Novi have basically owned this property, obviously through the school district since for the past 22 years. So it's really nice that it's actually going to be put to use, right? I mean, the community has made an investment, and now it's going to be a recreation area, which, we don't have a ton of here. I mean, we're always seeking more. So I just think this is great, and I look forward to seeing how Bosco Field takes shape over the next few years, and I'm sure the city will do a great job.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we're ready for a roll call vote. Mrs. Murphy?
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Hood?
Yes.
Mr. Mena?
Yes.
Mrs. Murphy? Yes. Mrs. Roney?
Yes.
Dr. Ruskin?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, and thank you, I know they're not here this evening, but Plant Moran Cressa and City, Pete Auger and Mr. Minka and the previous administration worked really hard to kind of move this in the right direction, so we appreciate them.
Absolutely.
We are going to move on to our last item of business, which is information and discussion, the surplus property. Mr. Minka.
Certainly. So under policy 5004, surplus property, the superintendent or the assistant superintendent of business and operations is authorized to dispose of obsolete instructional and other property by selling it to the highest bidder, by donation to appropriate parties, or by proper waste removal. After a thorough review of musical instruments at the middle school, we have the attached list with a compiled value of $750 per instrument that was determined. And this comes for information and discussion and will come back before the board for approval on October 6th at the regular meeting. And so the list of instruments are there. Musical instruments have a shelf life or a useful life, and we have gotten to that point. So I do believe our goal is to dispose of them through donation, first by bidding, then through donation, and then we'll dispose of any unwarranted or unpicked up instruments at that time.
Thank you. Do any board members have any specific questions that we can have answered? Mr. Cook?
Yeah, if we know of another school district that's in need of musical instruments, would that be an appropriate donation to recommend?
I think that would be a great idea, and I will talk with our team about maybe seeking that out on some of the listservs that our administrative staff are on. Oftentimes that can happen, so I'll check into that.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Certainly, if something comes up, you can share it here with Mr. Minka, and he will get back to the entire board. So thank you, Mr. Cook, for that thoughtful, wonderful suggestion. So it is 9:22, if my eyes are working right. If I can get a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Support.
Recommended by Mr. Mena and supported by Mr. Cook. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 7-0.